Hello, this is Team 103, and we will be presenting research topic W3C. Our team is comprised of myself, Maggie Young, and also Teresa Todd and Amal Alatawi. So first, let's go over what is W3C. W3C stands for the World Wide Web Consortium. Founded by Tim Berners-Lee in October 1994, this organization now has 416 members. The members collaborate to lead the World Wide Web to its full potential by developing standards to ensure the evolution of the web and maintain its interoperability. What is interoperability? The web standards are designed for the web to work no matter what business or organization builds tools to support it. The web will evolve in a sole direction rather than being split among competing rival groups. For example, no matter how many browsers are developed, they can all communicate across the same platform called the World Wide Web. W3C initially was created as a collaboration with MIT and the European Organization for Nuclear Research, or CERN, with support from DARPA and the European Commission. The community decides on how the website markup and script will be written and rendered for all.
The consortium works under 5 principles: Web for All, Web on Everything, Web for Rich Interaction, Web of Data and Services, and Web of Trust. The Web for All principle maintains the social value of the web. Through the web, communication, commerce, and knowledge are shared with others. No matter the hardware, software, network, infrastructure, language, culture, geographical location, or people's mental or physical ability, the benefits of the web are available to all people. The Web on Everything principle allows different devices to access and use the web. The many types of devices using the web has grown immensely with items like cell phones, digital assistants, televisions, voice response systems, and even household appliances. The Web for Rich Interaction principle allows many communication mediums to emerge for information sharing. No one had heard of a blog, wiki, or social networking such as Facebook and LinkedIn until the web was invented. Now all these new types of communication have come into being with the World Wide Web. This principle supports building new and different information sharing platforms. The Web of Data Services principle allows the web to be used as a repository of linked data as well as services for message exchange. The two are complementary and are used as necessary for the specific application. Following this principle allows for different applications to use the services as needed. The Web of Trust principle ensures that the way we communicate with others ensures trust and confidence with the users. People now meet on the web to arrange a date, we buy items off the web, and we even conduct bank transactions on the web. Trust must be the basis of this social phenomenon. The technology design can foster that confidence in the system. Standards are important to support all interactions among the different global parties around the world.
W3C has created over 90 standards for the web. Some of the many standards include CGI, CSS, HTML, SOAP, XML, XHTML, and more. The process of developing a standard has many phases and uses specific terminology for each step of the work cycle. Working draft is the first step. The draft will still be worked on by a committee, and actually many working drafts never make it out of this stage. The working draft will change often during this time, but some browser manufacturers will produce support for some of the ideas in a working draft. For a developer, reviewing the working drafts can give a sense of where technology for the web is heading. Candidate recommendation is the next stage following the working draft. The recommendation is submitted to users to review and submit feedback. This stage will last several months. Some candidate recommendations will not be supported, but reading them will keep you up to date on the cutting edge of development. Proposed recommendation is submitted for review to be formalized into a recommendation. The specifications in this recommendation are very close to being ready for a full release. The proposed recommendation is awaiting approval. As a developer, look at proposed recommendations to be ahead of what is coming and have your code prepared for the upcoming standards. Recommendation or standard is a specification that is approved by the committee members and made public. Review the recommendations if you want to work with ready-to-go technology. And here are a few other terms worth noting. Notes are often additional information added in an addendum to help developers work with the specifications of a recommendation. Specification defines how the technology will function, who the authors are, and a short narrative of the technology involved. Deprecate is a term for an object, element, or specification that is no longer useful or detrimental to the standard. Items labeled as deprecated will be slated for removal from a standard. Using XHTML as an example, there will be a lag period between the time an item is labeled deprecated and when the browsers will no longer support it. If you are working on development, check the deprecated items so your code remains interoperable into the future. I'm now going to hand off this presentation to Teresa Todd, and she will discuss a couple of recent standards.
Thanks, Maggie. One of the newest topics W3C is taking on relates to the securing of the web. W3C is putting cybersecurity on the radar by announcing the new Working Group for Standardizing Web Authentication. Wendy Seltzer, the domain lead for W3C, was recently quoted, "Every other week you see news of a password leak or a data leak from another major site, and as a user of the web, every place you go, you are asked to log in with a username and password. That is difficult to manage on the user side, and is not the best we can do in security." The goal of this working group is to create a standard providing strong authentication without using just a password. The password itself is usually the weakest link of a secure system. People do not want to put in the effort to create strong, complex passwords, and they do not want to change the password on a regular basis. It is also easy for a user to share passwords. This makes the password susceptible to misuse. The new standard, called FIDO 2.0, centers on using multi-factor authentication as an easy tool. The FIDO framework is flexible, using a combination of password-based and passwordless authentication. For example, using biometrics such as a fingerprint or facial recognition, plus a PIN or password. According to Dr. Jeff Jaffe, CEO of W3C, our goal is to raise the entire open web platform to a higher standard of security and to collaborate with the industry, academic experts, and other standards organizations to ensure that specific web security needs are met. We invite broad participation to work together on this top priority to keep the web as secure as possible today and in the foreseeable future. W3C has created many standards, and as you can imagine, with many people involved, the road to a standard can be rocky. Controversy can surround a standard and whether it is maintaining the mission of the W3C. One of the most notable controversies was a standard for HTML. W3C believed the XHTML was the standard for the future and put its resources toward this endeavor. Another organization called WHATWG, Web Hypertext Application Technology Working Group, was formed out of frustration with the W3C and pursued their own HTML standard. In 2007, W3C finally adopted the WHATWG HTML standard. However, the two groups have continued to work on their own standards. This has created two HTML standards. Here are the differences between the two. First, W3C has called its version HTML5. WHATWG's specification has dropped the 5 and is calling it the HTML Living Standard. WHATWG considers the document in constant development and will not put a version number. Already, W3C is working on a new version with a dialog element and two input types of month and week being discussed. Some would argue the versioning is the proper route as it allows mapping of features and makes it easier to plan future development. The main element is a new addition and has different meanings between the two specifications. The W3C specification describes it as the main content of a page, and a document must not include more than one main element. The WHATWG version does not assign a number of times the main element can be used. In this specification, it can be used multiple times. Many users prefer the W3C version, not seeing the necessity of multiple main areas. The H group element is used to group a set of H1 through H6 elements. This was introduced to easily create subtitles. W3C has removed this due to the lack of implementations and lack of use cases. WHATWG still includes the H group. Web Notification API is used for end-user notifications. The notification allows alerting a user outside of the web page content, such as the delivery of email. W3C defines 4 events the API can occur on click, on close, on air, and on show. The WHATWG specifies only 2 events, on click and on air. The developers tend to lean toward the W3C on this issue, as it provides more options in allowing the use of the notifications. The HTML standard controversy will continue as the 2 standards move forward. In the end, it will be up to the browser companies and the developers who will decide which specification wins by implementing them. The W3C has also created tools to validate its code against its standards. Amel will now demonstrate W3C validation tools.
Thank you, Teresa. W3C Markup Validation Service is a validator or checker by the W3C that allows Internet users to check HTML and XHTML documents for well-formed markup. So I'm going to demonstrate and go into this website validator.w3.org and try to validate and use these 3 features. As you can see, I can validate by the URL or validate by the file upload or validate as a direct input and paste the code here. Let's try the first one, validate by the URL. So I have this URL here. I just copy and paste it, and then I click on this check button. So the report, it shows in the green bar. That means there's no errors or warning to show up. So this website is past the validation checker by the W3C. Let's try the other validate by the file upload. So I have here my file, and basically I'm going to hit the check button again. Oh, we have here 4 errors, as you can see. The best practice is to start by one error, by the first error and the second, and etc. So as you can see, the first error here, it shows you the error type by heading cannot be a child of another heading. So and it shows you the line number and some hint to fix this error. Let's go together and fix it here in my code. If you can see, this H1 tag has a correct opening tag, and the URL and the alt element, but at the same time it's not correct closing, so we need to correct the closing H1 tag, and then save that, and then try to check the file again. Wow, I am fixing my errors by W3C validation checker. So this help us to fix also my errors. The other, or the third last validation direct input is about pasting your code here in this area, and then click check button. It's going to show you the report again with the green bar. So our aim here to eliminate the errors and try to minimize the warning. The W3C markup validation service pros is it is very quick process, and it gives the report by the code level errors and the type of the errors, and it gives some recommendations to help fix these errors. And the most important cause here is doesn't diagnose general crawl issues, and it is a free tool, so there is no cost associated with this service. Another important aspect that is making web sites themselves accessible for all, WAI, Web Accessibility Initiative, within W3C, that provides open web standards, strategies, guidelines, and resources. There are three main accessibility guidelines from the WAI, W3C, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, that tells developers how to make their website accessible. The second one is ARIA, Accessible Rich Internet Application Suite, that primarily addresses dynamic web content. The third one is UAAG, User Agent Accessibility Guidelines, which defines what this software or what the softwares needs to do for accessibility. Here is one of the famous statements for Tim Berners-Lee, the director of the W3C. The power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect. Finally, if you are interested in learning about W3C or would like to become a member, here are some recommendation links. Thank you for watching us.